and then they have, they get almost blown out really by Wake Forest, and then they have team meetings and, kind of refocus their goals, and they play a near perfect game against Clemson, which at that time was number one in the ACC. And you think, okay, they've turned the corner, and then they have to play Miami like a couple of days later, and Miami just absolutely flummoxed them in the second half with their defense, and then Carolina didn't play well. They played well for a while at State, but didn't finish well, and so the fact that you see surprises like that make what I do rewarding. I'm going to see UNC and Virginia Saturday, and then Duke and NC State next Tuesday. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Duke and NC State. I think that's they could be playing for the double bye. The winner of that game could be the fourth place team in the ACC. Yeah. Both. Actually, NC State likes to get up and down, but Duke under John Shire is actually playing a slower tempo this year, which has been interesting. But they're a great defensive team, and their offense has gotten a lot better. So I'm very much looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I think, and like you spoke about, I mean, there's obviously a lot to come with the ACC as we're here with Bob Holliday, WRALSportsFan.com reporter here, and spending many years in the college basketball world and obviously honing in on the ACC. You do a lot, obviously, in the Carolinas. So when you're taking a look at NC State, Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina, let's break them down. And I know you started to break down Duke here and talk about their evolution through your eyes this season. So let's keep with the Duke Blue Devils. Who are they right now? Are they dangerous? Are they looking anything like the Duke that people expect? Or where does Duke stand in the grand scheme of things right now with a few games to go in the ACC tournament? Are they dangerous? Are they better? Are they not what they used to be? How do you see Duke right now?
I see Duke as dangerous. Duke was a young team that didn't have all of its key parts for January. I think the turning point in Duke's season came in the final minute of the game against Carolina and Cameron. It was anybody's game with a minute to go. Duke made the plays and won by 6. Since that time, now the Blue Devils did have to go to Miami a couple nights after that, and they were blown out. I think they were fatigued. They also, if I recall, were missing one key player. Anyway, they were blown out then. But since then, Duke has played really well. They forced Virginia to overtime, and as we know, the officials made a mistake. Kyle Filipowski should have had 2 shots at the end of regulation, and guy's an 80+% free throw shooter, and so chances are he makes at least one. Although in all honesty, I have to say that he got fouled with 1 minute left in overtime and he bricked it. But I still think if you put him on the line with 2 shots to win the game, I think he'd have made one. So Duke is angry about that, and they haven't lost since. They had an emotional victory over Notre Dame. That was emotional because Mike Krzyzewski came back to Cameron for the first time since retiring. He did that to see his old colleague, Mike Bray. Notre Dame played sensationally that night, and it was only a 4-point game. But Duke played well. We saw what they did against Syracuse, and anyway, and then they took care of business against Louisville. But the main thing about Duke now is they've got all their players. They don't have anybody injured. And Derek Whitehead, I believe, did not play against Miami. And they were beaten so badly that game, I don't know that would have mattered. But he's back. He means a lot to their team. They've got a lot of young freshmen that they count on, and those guys are getting better. The biggest problem for Duke has been turnovers. They lead the ACC in turnover. Well, they're second to only Louisville turns it over more than Duke. And against NC State, that's a big problem because NC State is one of the best at forcing turnovers. And if NC State is able to get some live ball turnovers and get their fast break going, that's a problem for Duke. But Duke is doing much better at protecting the basketball. I think they just had 6 against Louisville. They, I think, had a pretty clean second half at Syracuse. I think they had a few turnovers. The Orange are among the best at forcing turnovers. It's a zone, but it's an aggressive zone, and they take the ball away a lot. And so the fact that Duke took care of the ball against the Orange in the second half, I think is significant. And Duke also didn't turn it over against Notre Dame. So Duke is getting better at protecting the ball. They move the ball very well, and I think the two guards play really well together, and Tyrese Proctor and Jeremy Roach, and I think their ball movement is better, and as their ball movement gets better, their shots get better. That was the other problem that Duke was having early on, was they were not a good three-point shooting team, and not that good a shooting team, period. But now they've, with their better ball movement, they're now shooting 45% from the floor in conference games and 35% from three, which is respectable. It stands in sharp contrast to North Carolina, which I believe is still under 30%. They were 29 something the last I looked from beyond the arc in conference games. It's hard to win certain games that way. So I like Derek Lively, might be the best shot blocker in the league. When he can stay in the games, he is foul prone, but when he can stay in the games, he takes custody of the paint and makes it. Even Armando Bacot will be challenged to get shots over Derek Lively, and Kyle Filipowski is also a shot blocker. So Duke is very strong in the paint. Their perimeter game is much improved. They've got a deep bench, and I think they're going to finish strong here in the final 2 weeks, and I think they're going to make a deep run in Greensboro.
And that coming here from Bob Holliday, WRAL sports fan, here with us, WRALsportsfan.com reporter, and speaking on the ACC as well as overall college basketball on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Bob, to go to North Carolina, I know you mentioned them a little bit here. Your thoughts on North Carolina, right? Because this is a team that preseason-wise, you're not going to see them picked low. That's not what happens, right? There's something to say about the history that you have, and it's like Notre Dame in football. They're gonna get those votes, and North Carolina this season though has not looked great. And where they stand right now inside of the ACC, North Carolina is under Syracuse currently, and as it stands right now, they're the 9th best team out of 15 in the conference. They're 8-8, 500 in the conference, and 16-11 overall, same record as the Syracuse Orange. Your take on the North Carolina Tar Heels? Obviously Hubert Davis is trying to have his era beyond the era of Roy Williams, which is beyond the era of Dean Smith. What can you say about the Hubert Davis era, as young as it is, and what does this team look like right now? Is there any hope that North Carolina can get it together?
Well, there's hope, and Hubert Davis is a man of faith. He quoted scripture the other day after the loss to NC State, and he continues to believe. But who knows? I think we'll find out something tonight. Carolina's at Notre Dame. They beat Notre Dame pretty easily in Chapel Hill, but Notre Dame is playing much better now. This will be Mike Bray's second to last home game. I think Notre Dame has a lot of veteran players. And I know they're disappointed in the way this season has gone. I think they want to send Mike Bray out on a positive note. And they've got this game against North Carolina, and then they close against Pitt. So I think North Carolina is going to be Notre Dame will be a very tough out for North Carolina tonight, especially if the Tar Heels don't shoot well. Notre Dame is not a great defensive team. I think that's their problem. They don't force turnovers, and they actually don't hold teams to that low percentage. If North Carolina can get the ball into Bacot, and he has a good night, they have a pretty solid chance to win. But, this is a game where North Carolina, they don't need perfection tonight. They just need to win by 2 or 4 or 6. Actually, they might be better off if they could win by 10, because I think if there's a close game, that could be a problem. Carolina's lost. There's so many twists and turns in this season, but I think maybe they've lost games different ways, but kind of the one common denominator is that they have not been able to hold leads late in games. They're 0-8 or 0-9 in quad one games, and in 6 of those games, they had a lead in the second half, including they were up 6 against NC State and actually had 3 chances to make it 8 or 9, and they botched all 3 chances. And then NC State got hot and scored on 9 consecutive possessions and won the game going away. So I think playing with poise, making plays late in games, that's something they did last year, something they're not doing this year. Let's see tonight if they can make plays to beat Notre Dame. If they lose to Notre Dame, they're 8-9, and quite honestly, they haven't clinched the 9th seed yet. Boston College still has an outside. North Carolina wins the head-to-head with Boston College because they beat them during the season. But if North Carolina loses several games in the final 2 weeks, Boston College could get the number 9 seed. And as you know, Dan, being an historian, there's only one ACC team that has won the tournament playing 4 straight days, and that was Duke up in Brooklyn, 2017, I think it was. And no team has won the ACC tournament playing 5 straight days. So if North Carolina has to play a Tuesday game, I think they're done. Anyway, if they win the last 4, then they still are in the conversation to get an at-large bid. They would still probably have, Joe Lunardi made a really good point in the midst of a lot of points I didn't agree with. But one really good point is that North Carolina has not beaten a good team away from home. And that's true. They haven't beaten a good team on the road, and they haven't beaten a good team on a neutral court. So I think in addition to winning the last 4, they probably will have to beat a higher-seeded team in Greensboro, a neutral court, to solidify an NCAA at-large bid. And if they don't win the last 4, then they quite probably are going to have to win the ACC tournament to get to the big dance.
Yeah, and bringing up great points here in the standings, and we'll hit on some of these as well. NC State, I know we've talked about them, and you've given some thoughts on where they currently stand right now, what they've done. This is a team currently 11-6 in the conference, 21-7 overall, and you spoke about the fact with everything going on with, the life that we have with transferring and all the pieces that you can lose now, and essentially collegiate free agency for all athletics. The NC State Wolfpack have had to go through some changes. However, the team's 21-7, and like I said, 11-6 inside of the conference. They did lose to Syracuse, and I was at that game 75-72, but they have had themselves a season up to this point. Where do you see the NC State Wolfpack, and do you believe that Kevin Keatts is really onto something in Raleigh, North Carolina?
Well, I do. I think the conditions that we have now in college basketball are tailor-made for Kevin Keatts in that, he coached at a junior college where he had to rebuild his roster every year. So he's used to this. And he's rebuilt his roster at NC State several times. And, he actually didn't have to rebuild it last year, and they had a poor year. And so maybe that's the key, is he needs to rebuild his roster every year. It's just amazing, the talented Jarkel Joyner, one of the very best players in the ACC, got him from Mississippi. DJ Burns, player of the year in the Big South, Southern Conference. But anyway, he was player of the year in his conference, and he actually was not the starting center at the beginning of the year. Keatts brought in Dusan Mahorsic, and he was a starting center. Mahorsic was better defensively, but their offense is much better now with DJ Burns. He gives them NC State has not had a great post presence in a lot of Keatts' time. Real briefly, the Kevin Keatts philosophy, it's different. His philosophy is based on the three-point shot. Something that he excelled with at UNC Wilmington. Remember, they pulled an NCAA upset or 2 in the first round. Teams are not used to playing his style. It's based on the three-point shot and turnovers. And his philosophy is if you shoot more three-point shots than your opponent, you're going to make more three-point shots than your opponent. That usually holds, not always. And then you win the turnover battle. You press, you win the turnover battle. You have to play your best because you're pressing. And so it's a philosophy that's worked pretty well, but in some years they live by the jumper and die by the jumper. And, last year certainly they died by the jumper. Their best teams have been, when they have had a good inside player, like a DJ Funderburk a couple of years ago, or DJ Burns now. So I like that aspect of NC State, the fact they've got really really strength in the middle. Terquavian Smith is one of the most exciting players I've ever seen. He's not shot the ball well lately. I don't know why, but Sunday he had Leaky Black on him, who I believe is the best defensive player in the ACC. He's held almost everybody down. He even held Isaiah Wong of Miami down, but Carolina only has one Leaky Black, and they couldn't cover Miller. So anyway, NC State has all this talent that has been brought in by Kevin Keats, and they seem to be peaking now at the right time. Now they have to play at Duke. Duke will be motivated because NC State blew Duke out early in the season. Duke was very young then. I think they played that game without Jeremy Roach, but it was 84-60. NC State forced lots of live ball turnovers, ran up and down the floor. I think it's going to be a very different game, and I think whoever wins the Duke State game next week could be my pick, along with Miami, to win the ACC tournament.
That coming here from Bob Holliday. Love that and appreciate that so very much. Wake Forest, the other school inside of the state of North Carolina, taking a look at what they've done this season up to this point. Wake Forest, a team, as I said, and I made this mention with 6 games to go, I said Syracuse needs to understand the fact that Wake Forest, they have to, because they've been playing behind them, they have been toe-to-toe, neck and neck with Wake Forest, and Wake Forest can put, that number 7 spot, different from the 8-9 situation. And obviously, when we went into these 6, Syracuse had an opportunity to also put themselves in a position to get into the 6th seed. And, people say, okay, well, obviously that's important, right? That's important, Dan, to get from 8 to 6 because seeding in general. And I said, yeah, but you also have to look at the reality of it. And Bob and I know this very well because we're at the games. And that is the games start at noon. They end at midnight. So you're playing all day, right? You have your noon, you have your approximate 2, and then your 7, and then your 9. And the games this year in Greensboro, the last game is at 9:30, but could start at 9:47, could start at 10:01. So looking at Syracuse, the difference between, or any team in the ACC, the difference between the 8 seed and the 6 seed is over 9 hours. It's the difference between playing at lunchtime or being the game where you get to have all day to prep, all day to prepare, get a good night's rest, go through everything, go through the motions, look at it once, look at it twice, look at it 10 times, and then play at the end of the day. So, this seeding that we talk about is so very crucial right now, and Wake Forest and Syracuse are right there with each other. And then when you look at Wake's season in the games that they've had here that are of note, they did, out of conference, beat an SEC team in Georgia. We did see them go on the road at Wisconsin and win that game as well. They lost the first time against Clemson on the road, beat them the second time around. They beat Duke as well when they were at home, and Duke was ranked in the top 15 at the time. And like I said, they beat Clemson when Clemson was ranked 19th at the time. They lost at home to Virginia by 9 points, and then lost to NC State, lost to Pitt, lost to Duke in this run of Virginia, Pitt, NC State, Duke, lost all 4 of those games, but then came back, beat North Carolina the second time around to keep them at bay when they were with them also close in the standings in the ACC, and they just most recently played Miami and lost to Miami by 9. So in some of these games against the teams that we've talked about that have stacked up well or we think are getting better, they have been in the game, even if they've lost the game. They also have some good quality wins, and they're keeping themselves just a hair above Syracuse. And again, to bang that point home, with 6 games to go, I said, listen, you have to take care of these games, because if you come to the end of the year and you have on March 4th, Wake Forest and Syracuse, that might be the game that decides that seed. And the way we're playing right now, Bob, we're still on pace for that to be correct.
Yes, that very definitely looks probable, I would say. North Carolina, should the Tar Heels, by some miracle, win the Final 4 games, I believe still has a chance to get the 7th seed, depending on how things shake out with Syracuse and Wake Forest, whether they have some losses in there.
Yeah.
But, in all probability, North Carolina is going to be the 9th seed and play, of course, you play the 8th seed, and you play at noon, and there's no energy in the building. Sometimes there's energy, that's another advantage of the later games is that the buildings had a chance to become energized. At high noon, that first tip-off, it's like bring your own energy, and you just never know how that's going to be. So,
yeah.
And the other thing about if you're in the 8-9 game on Wednesday, you play the number 1 seed on Thursday.
Yeah.
So 8-9 is not ideal. It's better than playing Tuesday, but it's not ideal. If you can get to the 7 seed, that's a much better place, I think. So if Syracuse can beat Wake and get the 7 seed, that would be a nice breakthrough for the Cuse. As far as Wake Forest, exciting team, not great defensively, and I think that's probably why they haven't won more games. Tyree Appleby is one of the most exciting players in the conference. When NC State played, I think NC State's win at Wake Forest was probably their best win of the year to this point. DJ Burns had 31 points that game, just absolutely lit it up. And Jarkel Joyner really did a job on Tyree Appleby, held him to 4 field goals and out of 12. Damari Monsanto is somebody you really have to watch for Wake Forest. And that's a problem for the Syracuse zone because Wake Forest shoots the 3 pretty well. And at times they shoot lights out. And when Wake is shooting lights out from beyond the arc, they're difficult to beat. And all their big men shoot. And so that's a problem for Edwards in that, of course, it's a zone, so he's not going to go out on the perimeter. But having big men that can shoot, I think, is a challenge for the Syracuse zone. So I think they'd rather see somebody like it was a structure like Carolina, which is going to have Bacon inside. So anyway, I like Wake Forest when they're hitting the 3, and they're a great transition team. And they don't force a lot of turnovers, but when they get them, they capitalize on them. And you want to keep Wake Forest at a half-court game. I think that's why Virginia won pretty handily against Wake, even in Winston-Salem, is because you will play a half-court game against Virginia. There's just no other way around it, unless you have an amazing press that takes the ball away, and Virginia does not normally turn the ball over against presses. So Virginia is not a good matchup for Wake. But anybody that likes to run, beware, because Wake Forest is an excellent transition team.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff.
They could win. They could turn the tables on NC State tonight, but I think NC State has more weapons right now.
Yeah, that coming here from Bob Holliday as we talk about the ACC and these next few games leading into Greensboro. And I do want to get to the history of Greensboro and Tarantino, this thing. But before that, Bob, I want to get biggest surprise in a good way, biggest surprise in a not so good way this season in the ACC. Which team surprised you pleasantly, and which team was the unpleasant surprise?
Well, I think Miami. I didn't. They had a great run last year, but I just didn't necessarily think they'd repeat this year. I watched them play at Duke in mid-January, and they actually should have beaten Duke that day. They couldn't buy a basket in the last couple of minutes. But anyway, Miami's an old team, and I think that's one of the lessons is that age matters.
Yeah.
They've got like Anthony Walker's been there forever, and he comes off the bench. Isaiah Wong's been there 3-4 years. Jordan Miller's been there several years. So they've got a very veteran old team, and I should have taken them a little more seriously, I think, back in November, December. They're, to me, the ACC's most pleasant surprise. And the biggest disappointment, without question, is Florida State. And a lot of that's just the type of program that Leonard Hamilton has built and the style that he plays with like 10, 11, 12 players, big men that block shots. I never saw them falling off the cliff early in the season like they did. And it looked like in mid-January that they were getting it back together. They won a couple games in a row, beat Pitt, if I recall, and should have beaten Clemson. They had Clemson in a tight game in Tallahassee and had a shot to win and didn't make it. And Clemson at that point was in the ascendant part of their season. That made them 10-1. So I thought, okay, Florida State's getting it together now. And what Leonard Hamilton did was realize he didn't have 12 really good players, so he shortened his bench, got down to 7 or 8. So they were playing better, but then since then, just some inexplicably poor play. And lost at Louisville. I can't remember who blew them out. Somebody blew them out by 40. Anyway, and they're on North Carolina's schedule, and North Carolina historically struggles in Tallahassee, but that's a game North Carolina's. North Carolina, in addition to needing to win some quad 1 games, they can't have any bad losses. That's the one factor in their resume now. They're 5-3 in quad 2 games and have no bad losses in quad 3 or quad 4. And obviously losing to Florida State would be a quad 4 loss, and that would be disastrous. But so anyway, Florida State is the biggest disappointment. A lot of that's just Leonard Hamilton. His teams have been so good for like a decade, and it's like, where did this happen?
Well, the crazy thing about it is Leonard Hamilton, in my opinion, never really got credit for building a good program. And I said like 5 to 7 years ago, I said, if you're not paying attention to FSU and you're not paying attention to what he's doing, what Leonard Hamilton's putting together, how he's recruiting, the guys he's bringing in, the fact they're being consistent, other guys leave, other guys come in. He was building something there, and I'm in the locker room interviewing these guys at the ACC tournament in Greensboro, saying to myself, why aren't people caring? Why don't people get it? And I bang that drum over and over and over again. Not because I grew up a Florida State fan or anything like that. It was because I have eyes and I have ears and I paid attention. And now, because they've fallen off this year, it's like some people never gave them credit. And now they're going, look, this is who they were. This is what we thought. And it's like, no, this isn't who they are. If you pay attention to college basketball, this is an atypical year for Florida State. And it is not a signifier of what we're used to seeing from Leonard Hamilton, one of the longest tenured coaches in the ACC. The game they lost on the road by 40 that you mentioned at Clemson, 94-54. This has been a tough road to hoe for Clemson this year, for Florida State. They lost to Stetson. They lost to Troy. They lost to Siena up here in Albany this year. They have taken a lot of losses that you would. They lost to St. John's as well by double digits. So they've had a very poor year. If I was answering the question that I asked you, I would say Florida State is the team that was the biggest surprise in a not great way. And I think the biggest surprise in a good way, you said Miami, so I'll pick somebody else. I would say Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh typically, since joining the ACC, lives somewhere near the bottom, right? 11-15 is like that cool. That's their spot. Maybe a 9 or a 10, but typically 11-15. That's where they're rolling. And people were talking Clemson, they were talking Virginia, they were talking Miami, and here comes Pittsburgh. They snuck up. They're still in the top 3. They were the number 1 team in the ACC standings. If they end up one of the top 4 teams, which is very doable right now, then we're going to see them have a double bye in the ACC tournament, where we're used to seeing them as the 11 seed or the 12 seed playing on day 1. So I think Pittsburgh by far is the biggest surprise because of what they've put together this season. Really since Jamie Dixon. I've covered this team most of my life. And since Jamie Dixon, Pittsburgh has been a shell of itself. They haven't been competitive. It hasn't been fun to watch. And they have been a relative non-factor in college basketball when it comes to playing in ACC. I don't think that they were ever, I don't think many teams saw them as a threat. The rivalry or whatever you want to call it with Syracuse, I didn't even feel that because of how bad the team was. Now, playing in the Pete is a tough place to play, but Jeff Capel III, I want to give him credit where credit's due for having the team that he's put together this year to be a team that's going to shock people that have been maybe paying attention just to their team or a couple teams that are going to see Pittsburgh not playing the first 2 days of the ACC tournament in Greensboro and having that automatic way. And listen, they're only a half a game out of first. They're 13-4. Miami's 14-4 in second, and Virginia's 13-3 currently in first place. So Pitt is not only in the top 4, but they're in a good footing to stay there. The outside of the top 4, Clemson is that last team in the 4. They're 2 games out of first place, so they're a game and a half behind Pitt. And then NC State's 2.5, Duke's 2.5. Now, if Duke lost their last 3 games, Wake Forest or Syracuse could become the 6th seed. But you and I both know college basketball. I don't see that happening. So I would think that Duke is probably going to lock themselves somewhere within that 5 or 6, and then it's Wake Forest and Syracuse fighting for the 7 seed, like we talked about, or the 8 seed, where they're probably going to be playing North Carolina and then having to play whoever the number 1 team is, be it Virginia, Miami, or Pittsburgh. So this has been a unique year of the ACC. I think it's going to make the tournament hopefully even more fun, because the teams that you're expecting to upset the other teams in the ACC tournament, it's flip-flop now. You're like, okay, Pitt made it to the quarterfinals. Well, they're the 11 seed, and now they got to play the... No, it's not that anymore. It's, oh, Pitt made it because they're going to play in the quarterfinals after sitting out the first 2 rounds. So it's a different year where the teams that you'd be looking to upset somebody are actually the better teams. Miami, like we talked about, has grown. Clemson is another team like Leonard Hamilton's FSU team. Clemson with Brad Brownell, why would you extend him? Why would you give him time? He's not that good. He can't turn it around. This is a football school. I love what Clemson's doing, and I love that they invested in Brad Brownell. I love what Jeff Capel III's doing, because Pitt, like I said, has been in the basement of the ACC pretty much since they joined. And I love Miami's move to get better, because you and I both know that Miami was a dangerous team, but they'd be in the middle of the ACC. And so you would look at the record and say, yeah, this team's a lot more dangerous than they look inside of the conference. And then we would talk about, if they let them in the NCAA tournament, they're going to put them on the 8-9 line, where we think they're a better team. So I'm happy to see the Miamis, the Pitts, and the Clemsons growing, blossoming, and getting to the top. NC State as well. Virginia, I didn't think this year that they were going to be the top team as it stands right now in the ACC. So that's been, a pleasant surprise from a coach I greatly respect. But I will tell you that I know that they've gone through coaches like underwear, Bob, but the Louisville Cardinals, they look like not the worst team in the ACC. They look like one of the most disappointing programs in all of college basketball right now.
Yeah, I grew up in Kentucky and saw lots of Louisville and Kentucky games at Freedom Hall, in fact, when I was a child. And so I followed that program for a long time, and it's just really unbelievable. I like your choice of Pitt. I said Miami because they're playing better now, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jeff Capel and I go all the way back to his days at Southview High School in Fayetteville, when his father was the coach at Fayetteville State University. Known Jeff a long time, have great respect for him. And yes, what Pitt has done this year is sensational. I mean, we would note that last year, the nadir of North Carolina's season came when they lost to Pitt in mid-February. Pitt was in down deep in the league last year, and that was seen as like a really, really, really bad loss for the Tar Heels. They got it together after that. Anyway, this Pitt has been entirely different this year. Once again, Jeff Capel is really, he lost some of the players that he initially recruited. The guys that he played with in 2018 and 2019 are not there now. So he's had to do a lot of roster makeover, and he's done a great job. Federico is a shot blocker. Struggling with names right now, but he's got a forward from Charlotte who's a tremendous player. Can drive to the basket, shoot jumpers. Anyway, I really like his team. They have a particular thing for North Carolina, even though his assistant coach Jason Capel played at Carolina under Bill Guthridge and then Matt Doherty. He feels a little bit estranged. It started in 2009 when Jeff was coaching Oklahoma, and Carolina was out there also, and Jason was wearing Oklahoma garb to support Jeff, and a lot of Carolina fans got on him for doing that. And he's never forgotten that. He went after Pitt beat North Carolina for the 5th time out of 6 games by the Capel brothers. He went to see his old coach, Phil Ford, North Carolina legend.
Yeah.
And as he went to shake Phil's hand, he was heckled by Carolina fans, which is just terrible. Anyway, he had kind of blew up outside the locker room. And Jeff had to explain in his press conference afterward that, Jason's very emotional about this, and, he feels kind of estranged from his university, and here's why. Anyway, the Capel brothers really have it in for Carolina, and North Carolina certainly doesn't want to see them again, I wouldn't think. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be I can't wait to let the games begin. I mean, I want to see these last 2 weeks of the season, and then let's get down to tournament time. We're going to see some surprises. We're going to see some great basketball and some thrilling games and some agonizing defeats, I suspect.
Yeah, and I know that the Pitt guard that you were mentioning, senior guard Jamarius Burton from Charlotte, North Carolina, as well with Pitt, and the work that he's put in this season. This is setting up to be maybe, and we've had some exciting ones. I mean, remember last year at the Barclays Center, we watched Virginia Tech hoist their first ever ACC men's basketball tournament championship trophy. So it's definitely been a wonderful, wonderful run of the last couple of years of just seeing a change. And it's nice. It's nice to see other teams rise. And now, as we look at it, it is definitely stacking up to be something pretty special here. I feel terrible for Mike Bray because he's one of my favorite coaches in the game. So to see him at 10-17 and the way the last couple of years have gone after the players that he's had and that he's sent off to the NBA, it's like having a king eat in a dirt hole outside of the castle. And I don't think that it's fair to Mike at all because, I listen, and I know, listen, he's got to recruit, he's got to coach, he's got to do all that stuff. I'm not saying he doesn't have a place in it, but Mike Bray, if anybody's met him, been around him, he'll talk to the media in the press conference, then he'll go talk to you in the hallway. He'll just sit there and rap with you about the game, about anything, and is passionate, never is like looking to run away and like say, okay, well, I did my 5 minutes of the media, I can go. So he's a lot more than just a coach. I respect him, and I'm going to miss him like crazy. And it's hard to, see what we've seen, Bob, that with the changing of what college athletics has become to what it was, Roy Williams, Coach K, Mike Bray, Jay Wright. I mean, there's coaches that arguably could be in the game still right now if not for transfer portal NIL. I mean, Roy seemed visibly upset in the last game that he had coached and kind of discussing some stuff. And then, you see Coach K, who was able to go toe-to-toe with Kentucky and take some of those one-and-dones and kind of transform Duke into that. But that's not the coach that he typically was. And, Jay Wright, I mean, going to the Big East tournament last year, because I did both. I was ACC and Big East in New York. And going there and interviewing Jay Wright, I didn't think that was going to be the last time I was going to interview him as the Villanova head coach. So, and Mike Bray in the sense, too, I'm not saying this is the only reason, but you kind of sit here and wonder why these coaches, who I consider to be some of the best in the game and some of the, greatest that you or I could ever interview and talk to, that they all seem to be going within a 2 to 3 year window.
I know we need to wrap this up, Dan, but let me leave you with one story about Mike Bray that I think really kind of sums this whole thing up. It's a very cool story. Mike was a counselor at the Tommy Amaker Basketball Academy that my son attended. And Mike talked to the kids about his dreams playing basketball. And he said he would always play the game where he would take the last shot for the win. And if the ball went in, yay, we won. If the ball didn't go in, he was fouled. and then he would have a free throw.
Yeah.
And if he made the free throw, he wins. If he missed the free throw, a second free throw. It was a 2-shot foul. And if he missed the second free throw, lane violation. And that's where we are, Dan, in this season of college basketball. You got to be positive. You got to believe. There's always another chance. There's always that lane violation. And I think that's where we are right now. Somebody in the next couple of weeks is going to hit the big shot and be really excited, and I can't wait.
And I never knew that Mike Bray and I played basketball the same way in the driveway, and now I know that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Final note here, Bob, because it's very important and special because you have had an illustrious career, and I'm so happy that we had the opportunity of crossing paths. You're one of the best that I've ever met in this world of sports media. So this will be your how many when it comes to ACC tournament in Greensboro. You've had a lot of history, and I want to celebrate the history. So let people know when you step into the Greensboro Coliseum, the history that you have with the tournament and with that Coliseum.
I saw my first ACC tournament In 1971, the famous tournament where North Carolina had a big lead over South Carolina, and South Carolina's last year of the league, there was a lot of acrimony between the two teams, and North Carolina was up by 13 and lost, and it came down to a jump ball. They had jump balls back then, and North Carolina should have had two guys protecting the basket, and they only had one, and 6'3" Kevin Joyce out-jumped 6'10" Lee Dedman. Tom Owens caught the ball and put it in, and that was it. So, and a quick anecdote about that, Dave Chadwick, who was my college broadcast partner, was haunted by that for years, and he went to see Dean Smith in the early 90s. Coach, was I in the wrong place? And that jump ball in South Carolina? And Coach Smith, in typical Dean Smith fashion, said, well, Dave, if you were in the wrong place, that's my fault because I'm your coach and I didn't teach you where to be. Yeah. That was Dean Smith. Anyway, that was my first tournament. What a great beginning. There'll never be another tournament like the 1975. The 74 tournament was the greatest game ever. NC State against Maryland, two of the top three teams in the country. Losers done for the year. I've never seen a game with that kind of pressure. And anyway, it will always be, because only one team could advance, it will always be the greatest game in history. But then 75, the greatest tournament ever, because all the games were like, buzzer beaters. And it came down to, UNC beat NC State for the championship, 70-66. That was the blowout of the tournament. So I've seen a lot of them. This will be number 45, and can't wait to see it.
45 tournaments. Bob Holliday, one of the greatest in the game. I appreciate you so much. WRALSportsFan.com sports reporter. Look him up, Bob Holliday with 2 L's, and you can see what I see, which is not only an extremely talented person, but one of the kindest and best hearts that's in there, and you don't find that a lot in the media, so I got to shout it out when I see it. Thank you, Bob, for everything.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate all the kind words. See you in Greensboro.
See you in Greensboro, sir. Take care.
Right, bye now.
That coming once again from Bob Holliday, hanging out here where sports meets that thing called life. Wake up call with Dan Tortora. We're going to take a step aside. Like I said, today was a little bit different. I had to go to the doctor this morning, and I didn't know how long it was going to take. Nothing crazy. Just, shoot a little prayer over and send some love. But there's many more people that need prayers from you. So, whatever you send to me, I appreciate. And I send so many back to you as well. And there's a lot of people that need prayers this morning. So make sure that you say those prayers. And I know who I'm praying for. And I hope you send some prayers out to, even if you never prayed before, I hope you take the time to pray today. Because I can tell you for a fact, there are people that really need you. So, with that being said, I'll take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we will be back inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios after you hear from our terrific partners in Central and Upstate New York. Stay with us. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5, Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Q's, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5, Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning. We appreciate you for being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's first hour featured our special Dolphin Dive with the Lemoyne baseball head coach, Scott Cassidy. And you could go back and watch that. We're also going to load it as its own special on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT. It's already up on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and it will be added to our Lemoyne tab on WakeUpCallDT.com. When you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel at WakeUpCallDT. With that being said, I want to thank Bob Holliday for joining me as well today to talk about the ACC and so many different pieces of the ACC. I love Bob's passion for sports in and of itself, and on top of that, to have so much knowledge over time and to be able to speak on so many things, be well versed in so many different areas. That's why I love having Bob on the show. It feels like he's on the show for 5 minutes, yet you gain a wealth of information. And we today got to talk about all throughout the ACC. We've covered and spoken about, teams that are on the top, teams that are in the middle, teams that are toward the bottom, our surprises in a good way, our surprises in a not so great way. And, these next couple weeks coming up of games, and then the upcoming ACC tournament that will be coming to the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm ecstatic to go. I love it down in North Carolina. I love the state of North Carolina. So really looking forward to it and can't wait to see that all come to fruition. So definitely looking forward to that moment. And, I hope you are too, because we're going to have coverage of it on wakeupcalldt.com, on all of our social medias, at wakeupcalldt on Facebook, at calldt on Twitter, and at wakeupcall_DT on Instagram. So you'll be able to be with us there, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.com. And this is stacked up to be a fantastic run here. The top 9 teams in the ACC in the standings right now, the top 9 teams are all within 5 games or less of first place. All of them are within 5 games. The top 9, more than half of the conference, with a few games to go here, 4 games to go. You have the top 9 within 5 games or less of first place. So says a lot about, North Carolina is 5 games back and they're the 9 seed. However, we're looking at them at 500, and then Syracuse, Wake Forest above 500, Duke, NC State, and then you look at the top 4, you got Clemson in 4, Pittsburgh at 3 at the time we're talking, Miami at 2, Virginia at 1. So this is going to stack up to be awesome. And if Virginia does end up taking that top seed, well, then some things look normal inside of the ACC, but the things that don't look normal is an unranked Duke Blue Devils, an unranked North Carolina Tar Heels. Clemson was number 1 in the ACC and not ranked. Clemson and Pitt were in the top 2 and unranked. There's only 2 teams in the ACC that are ranked in the nation's top 25. Virginia is 6, Miami is 13, and that is on the AP side of things. So if we take a look at the AP and the coaches poll right now, that's only 2 teams out of 15 ranked there, which NC State dropped out of the top 25 after losing to Syracuse. And so we look at where things are currently, and Virginia is 6th in both polls. And then we look at the fact that Miami is 13th in the AP. Like I said, they're 11th in the coaches poll. And as it stands today, and I do my own bracketology, but as it currently stands today, taking a look at some bracket thoughts here, we have North Carolina by some having them as part of the first four out. And by conference, this is going to be interesting to see here, the ACC with only 5 that would get in. So as I'm looking at it right now, the Big 10, 9, that's like last year. Big 12 with 8, which is almost the entire conference because the Big 12 doesn't have 12 teams. The SEC, so you're going to put in the entire Big 12. The SEC with 8, the ACC with 5, the Big East with 5, the Mountain West with 3, the Pac-12 with 3, and the West Coast Conference that Gonzaga is in with St. Mary's with 2, the American with 2. So, and it's funny because Houston's the number 1 team in the country right now in both polls, the coaches in the AP, and they're from the American for Houston. If they were in the Big 12 already, then the Big 12 would have 9, allegedly, that's just insane. So, and if we go back and we look at the Big 12 right now, listen, the Big 10 last year was the conference that I said, why? Why would you put almost the entire conference in? And my statement of why was proven right. I didn't think that there were factual evidence pieces as to why you put them in there. And it held up right? So now you take, and the ACC didn't hold up right, that they were disrespected. And as Bob and I talked about, they obviously made people pay for that. Not even make people pay, but they handled themselves despite that disrespect. So the American, I would imagine, Houston is obviously going to be in, but of the two they're talking about, potentially Tulane or Memphis. By the way, Tulane is having a fantastic campaign in 2022-23. I was down at the Cotton Bowl Classic where they defeated USC, and now here they are in the top 2 of the American Athletic Conference, so good for them. In the A10 right now, VCU is at the top, and obviously I mentioned the ACC here. Happy that VCU is back at the top. We look at the Big 12. Now, folks, I'm not kidding when I say this. The Big 12 has 10 teams, and this is not my bracketology, but there is bracketology out there that is alleging that 8 of these teams are going to make it. 8 of them are going to make it of the 10 in the conference of the Big 12. So Kansas and Texas and Kansas State and Baylor, Iowa State and TCU are all ranked in the nation's top 25. Now, TCU is 18-10. They have a losing record in the conference. Iowa State is 17-10, and they have one game above 500 at 8-7. Then you look at the other teams they're alleging are going to make it. Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, they're 16-12 apiece. Oklahoma State is 7-8 in the conference, and Texas Tech is 5-10. In that case, Syracuse should be in the tournament right now. You look at the Big East, Marquette's at the top. It's been a long time for Marquette. Shout out to them. Without Jay Wright, Villanova's in the middle of the pack, and they're not ranked. Providence Friars are ranked in the top 25, so is Xavier, Creighton, and UConn. So I'm guessing with the Big East, that's your 5. But I look at Seton Hall, they have a winning record in their conference, and they're 16-12. So why can't they get in with the rest of the 47 Big 12 teams? Then we look at the Big 10, and in the Big 10 right now, they're saying 9. So let's talk about the 9 of the 14, okay? Again, with the committee just gaga. If this happens, now this is a prediction, this is bracketology, but if it were to happen, right? I'm speaking in the sense of if this were to happen. It hasn't happened yet. Obviously, there's games to be played and tournaments to be won. But Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana are all ranked in the top 25. So like the ACC, they only have a few teams ranked, right? ACC has 2 ranked in the top 25. Big 10 has 3. So then they got Iowa in, allegedly. This is not my bracketology, somebody else's. Iowa, who's 17-10 overall, 9-7 in the conference. Illinois, 18-9 overall, 9-7 in the conference. Michigan State, 17-10, 9-7 in the conference. Rutgers, 17-10, 9-7 in the conference. Maryland, 18-9, 9-7 in the conference. Michigan Wolverines, 15-12, 9-7 in the conference. And I'm guessing Wisconsin here, 15-11. 7-9 in the conference. Does that bring me there, or did I go one extra here? So that's 4, Okay, I went one extra with Wisconsin because that would have been idiotic. So we'll back away from that. But who knows? Maybe they'll put them in there. But I mean, you're looking at 12 loss team. Now, granted, you're going to say, okay, Dan, well, maybe they got some big time wins despite their 12 losses. But normally, 10 losses is a danger zone. More than 10 is you go win your conference tournament, and then we'll talk about if you're getting in, right? So to me, there's 68 spots. There's more than enough spots, but you got to take care of going across the country and looking at all of the conferences and not just one or two of these conferences. I mean, you're literally going to take the entire Big 12 except for two, and you're going to take most of the Big 10, and that didn't work out for you last year. So, if it was up to me, I think that that's ridiculous. I really genuinely do. And, I mean, the SEC isn't crazy great. You have Alabama, Texas A&M, and Tennessee that are ranked. Kentucky's not ranked. They're 18-9, 9-5 in the conference. You have Vanderbilt, who's 15-12, 8-6 in the conference. Auburn's 8-6 as well. They're 18-9. Missouri is 8-7 in the conference and 20-8 overall, and then Arkansas is 19-9 and 8-7. So even that is better than your 12 lost teams that are chilling in the Big 12 or your 11 lost teams in the Big 12 and the Big 10. So, to me, I mean, what is this? Are we picking the college football playoff? But at the end of the day, right? This is somebody's prediction. This is not exactly what's going to happen, but the sign of the times of seeing some of the stuff makes you a little bit uneasy of saying, okay, well, this is somebody's prediction, but remember last year with the Big Ten and how many spots they gobbled up, and if they deserve it, then gobble them up. But the ACC, to me, they proved how dangerous they were last year, and I look at them now and say, well, I would think you're going to Duke doesn't have a fantastic record, but Duke is dangerous, right? And let's see how far they go in the ACC tournament. You got to put in Clemson. You got to put in Pitt. You got to put in Miami. You got to put in Virginia. You got to put in NC State. And then you look from there. Does North Carolina make a run? What does Syracuse do with these last few games? Can they win at Clemson? Can they win at Pitt? Those are huge, right? And then can you take care of Wake Forest and get the 7 seed? Can you take care of Georgia Tech as well? So, to me, there's some danger out there when you're playing an ACC team, and I would behoove the NCAA selection committee for the NCAA tournament to pay close attention to the ACC tournament this year, along with all the rest of the tournaments, and to not make the same mistake twice of saying, we're not going to let in teams because we don't think that this is really great. This is a great conference, but they proved you wrong, right? So do you want to look stupid 2 years in a row, or do you want to actually try to win these games? Do you actually want to show the country some fairness? I can't look at these, and if you say, okay, well, this team beat this team and they have this nice record, well, that's fine. But I look at it from the sense of reality. I know I've grown up here and I've covered Syracuse my whole life. If Syracuse was 16-12 and had a losing record in the conference and they had a couple nice wins, I still don't think people would be talking about them. I don't think the committee would put them in. So you got to do to one what you would do to the other. That's fairness. And then we move on from here. So it'll be interesting to see. But listen, with games to play in the regular season and games to play in your tournament, you are in control of your own destiny. And that is the best place to be in. And they need to take control of their destiny. So with that being said, we'll take our final step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show and get you ready for what's to come on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbeville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. And I appreciate you being here every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage where the MixLR feed is embedded, and on Facebook.com/Live Now DT. I also appreciate you going to our archives and downloading any one of these apps and then downloading our shows from the apps. They're free on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And a big thanks to our incredible partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, 317 at Montgomery. The name of the location is the name of the restaurant, 317 Montgomery Street in downtown Syracuse, Great Lakes Honda City, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Pizza Man, and Wake Up Call is the exclusive and proud multimedia marketing partner of your time exclusively on our show here on Wake Up Call. You have the opportunity Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for Dolphin Time, which first and third Wednesday of each month features AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, you have the opportunity for the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. So make sure that you check all of those out by going to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, subscribing as well to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and you can get more information on your Dolphins by going to LeMoyneDolphins.com. How do you not dance to that music? Literally, every time you hear it. I do. I'm always shimmying my shoulders in the studio. So the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, proud exclusive multimedia marketing partners here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We have the opportunity to tell the stories of the Bobcats, student athletes, and coaches every single month. And we have had so much fun getting to do that and appreciate them so very much. Thanks to all the coaches and all the student athletes that have joined us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. The Bobcats are with you on the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com. They're also with you by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And for more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. I want to thank you all today for ad-libbing with me while I was at the doctor. I really do appreciate that. Please make sure to go back and watch the special Dolphin Dive, which will be re-promoted instantaneously within the hour here on Wake Up Call's channels on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, and on youtube.com/Wake Up Call DT. Fantastic story with Scott Cassidy at the helm of the Lemoyne baseball team as they're just moving into their season. They played their first 4 games. They're heading down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in a couple days. And I'm so excited for everything that you have to hear in this. Talk about the 2023 roster, recruiting the state of New York, as well as our thoughts on Major League Baseball. He puts me on the hot seat in rapid fire. We have some fun back and forth with that. And we also talk about NIL, transfer portal, how you recruit right now, and the coaching staff of Derek Miller, Michael Smith, and the Miolas, Mike Miola Sr. and Jr., all on staff with Scott Cassidy. We also discuss the potential move to Division I or staying Division II. So great conversation with Scott. Don't miss a moment of it on Facebook.com and YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. We'll be adding it to Facebook. It's already available on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch and listen within the hour on either or. So make sure you do that. A big thanks to Bob Holliday for joining me for an hour's time of this broadcast at least. So big shout out to Bob Holliday. Check him out at WRALSportsFan.com or just search Bob Holliday with 2 L's and you'll see his awesome work. Fantastic to get to meet him and be around him. Like I said, it's hard to find the good ones in the media, and he's one of the good ones. So I'm very thankful and grateful to God that he crossed our paths together and that we've crossed paths through something as beautiful as the ACC, who's been tremendous with me in my career. So a big shout out to everybody in the ACC, from Commissioner Jim Phillips to Amy Yacola and, to Kevin, to Andy, to the entire team at the ACC. Thank you so much for all that you do. It never goes unappreciated. With that being said, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And from the Cafe Kubal Studios, I will see you tonight in Binghamton. Very excited. Going to see Vermont and Binghamton on the women's basketball court. And I cannot wait. Until then, and I'll see you on social media for that. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe. And shout out to Cassidy for giving me the new threads. Look at this hat. I'm going to be wearing this hat everywhere. Thank you so much.